actually won a game. Can you believe it? Manchester United 3, Newcastle United 2. The final home game of the season actually ends in a rare Manchester United victory. What a pleasant surprise. Yes, goals from Kobbie Mainoo, AMAD Diallo, and Rasmus HOJLUND. What a trio that is. Manchester United's young guns proving to be the difference as well. It must be said, as the Manchester United captain, Bruno Fernandes, returning with a man-of-the-match performance. And look, we said several times that we're going into some of these games, where's the next win going to come from for Manchester United? And thankfully, or next point, forget win, next point's going to come from Manchester United. Finally, we did actually get one against a team that's going to finish above us this season. And a performance that, is more of the same from United this season, a bit up and down, nervy at points. But unlike in a lot of games recently, when it did get a bit nervy, we managed to get over the line at the end, which is good, is what we need. What we really need is momentum. We need momentum in going into that FA Cup final, don't we? And still the underdogs, still a lot to do. Doesn't make up for a poor season, but many people thought we were going to lose going into today's game. That didn't happen, so I'll take it certainly. This is the full-time view, though, where you can call in and have your say if you're a member. If you are a member, you can become a member by clicking the join button or the link in the video description. You get your badges, your emojis, your exclusive members-only content, and the ability to call in after every single match day on this show and have your say. If you are a member and you're going, well, I'm a member, Owen, how do I call in? Well, easy. I'm glad you asked. You can go over to the United View YouTube page, go over to the community tab, and there'll be a link there. Only members will be able to see it. It's magic. And you click that link, call in, and we can have a chat about your thoughts on the game. Let's get straight into the calls. Let's start off with Chalaboy Comics. Hello, my friend. Final home game of the season. And look, we got a win. Can you believe it? We actually won a game.
Yes, I can believe it. And, if I mentioned last call that I believe that if we played with a cohesive team performance like we did last game, I have no doubts that we'll be able to match up with both, Newcastle and Brighton. And we did just that. It's almost frustrating that it's only coming at this stage of the season, because if we had shown this level of commitment and, sticking to the rules and principles for the whole season, we'd be in a completely different place. But I'm very, very happy with the spirit that was shown by everyone on that pitch, because you can't, at this level, at the Premier League level, you can't win games if you have passengers. You need people that are doing their job consistently. And we're going to get to Bruno Fernandes because he was just phenomenal. I think that was a world-class performance. But I just wanted to talk specifically first about Jonny Evans and the role that he played in our press today. So one of the biggest criticisms of Ten Hag's system has been we're so open, our forward line presses, and when we press, we lose the ball. Today, Jonny Evans shows what a center-back in the system is meant to be doing and how aggressive you have to play. He was stepping in past the defensive line, going into midfield to shut down chances. And if we go back and look at this game, and in those, I think there were 2 or 3 moments where Jonny was extremely aggressive. If he doesn't do that, and Newcastle take the ball in the half turn and turn around, there's gonna be acres of space, right? So when you talk about systems and openness and things of that nature, if everyone is on the same singing from the same hymn sheet, it looks so much better versus if one person's slightly late, the whole thing falls apart. So I just wanted to shout out Jonny Evans, and if anyone's looking at the tactical reasons as to why we've struggled, it's because we don't commit either our fullbacks or the center backs into the press usually, and that may be because of timidness from our players or just not being on the same page. So that was just one of the things I wanted to shout out. In terms of Amrabat, I thought he was very solid. Was always an option to receive the ball from his teammates. And if you want to look at how his 6 plays, compare when McTominay is in that position versus Amrabat. Now, even though Amrabat had mistakes in him this game, he was always showing for the ball and ready to play it. So everything was knitted together and topped off by, well, not even topped off, but the foundation of this whole thing was Bruno Fernandes, because my goodness, that was a level above a lot of players in the league. I think in terms of offensive playmaking, him and De Bruyne in today's game, you know, they were equals. They were equals because it was that good. And then when you look into the leadership side of things and the off the ball work that Bruno has done, I think he was a level above today what we usually see from someone as good as De Bruyne. Now, I don't know if it's because it's this end of the season, people are a little bit, not as what are people fighting for? You could ask, but I think that will be miswarranted criticism because I was insanely impressed and everything ran through him. He was fantastic. So I'm happy all around.
Talk to me about AMAD, because of course he gets the goal this evening. Played against Arsenal, got his first start of the season against Arsenal at the weekend, and did well before coming off. He was actually unfortunate, wasn't he? He picked up a bit of a knock. Right. This evening scores, gets an assist, I think, as well. I was asking KG on the match view, but do you think Erik ten Hag has a bit of a dilemma now when it comes to the FA Cup final about that front three that he starts, in particular with the wingers at his disposal?
Yeah, no, he has he definitely has a dilemma, which is a good thing because we have players available, right? That's the first point. Who he goes with, I think he has to go with this front three with the wingers, Garnacho and AMAD, in my opinion. But it's highly unlikely that, based on the trends, that Rashford won't start if it's fit, which is what I hope Ten Hag is able to stick to the football and realize that Rashford can come in as a impact sub, but at the same time Rashford does score big goals against big players. So it's a dilemma that I think we'll have to assess after our last game of the season, just to know who we have available and see the form people are going into the final with. But in terms of Ahmad's specific performance, it was phenomenal, and I want to shout out the coaching staff for Manchester United, the set piece guys, because that was a routine that consistently created that second ball to fall to Ahmad, and he tried twice, missed it, and then on the third go belted an incredible goal. So it looked like something that was worked on the training ground that came to fruition. And when you're working together as a team, these things come off for you, right? So yeah, Ahmad on form should start, because what impressed me about him was not just his on-ball ability, because that's clear, he's very press resistant and all that, but his off-the-ball work is just phenomenal. He just sniffs danger before it happens, right? And he positions himself either to collect the second ball or to block an opponent's pass into the midfield. So his tenacity is very contagious. And when you have Garnacho, Bruno, Ahmad, and to a certain extent McTominay in that team, there's a work and a hunger when it comes to our high press. So it looked really good, and I'm very happy for him. Again, we talked about this last time. What's the downside of Ahmad starting is that he picks up knocks, So I hope that he's able to get fit and continue this form, because he was really good today.
Would you, going to Amrabat as well, in a season that has been filled with inconsistency, obviously performances, but also team selection, if AMAD and let's say Amrabat keep up this form, do they then sort of force Erik ten Hag's hand of, I know we're trying to get everyone back as fit as possible for the final, but is there a possibility they both could start against Man City because they're playing consistently and they're playing quite well?
Yeah, no, that's a fair point, and I think that will be right in line with Ten Hag's MO, in that he doesn't like unbalancing a winning team. So if anything, he's going to sprinkle in a couple two changes, maybe because of consistency, maybe a tactical tweak, based on what City are going to do. But that question also hinges on the availability of Martinez, and if he wants to play Evans and Martinez as a two, because if he decides to do that, then that would mean that Casemiro comes back into central midfield and Amrabat will have to be on the bench. So it really just depends on who we have available. But, as good as Amrabat was, because he was good, the one thing I wanted to note is schematically today, we got everything right in terms of, well, not everything, because we're playing against a top opposition, so some things fail here and there. But We found the spaces real well, switched to our white players in space. Everything was looking good. But the one thing that will let us down in the final if we don't just, figure it out is individual mistakes. Like, we had a ton today, like maybe 4 or 5 critical errors that you're like, this has nothing to do with the organization. Casemiro had one where Bruno had made a fantastic run, and all he needed to do was play him, side foot pass into space. He decides to do an outside of the foot flick. You have Amrabat where the ball was coming over him, and he did that, madness. And AMAD Diallo got caught under press, and Bruno had a loose touch. Garnacho had a loose touch here and there. So it's these things that a top team is going to punish us when they recover those balls. And then we're going to be looking at Ten Hag and be like, why do we suck so bad? This is terrible. So if we really want to take to the next level, there has to be a level of accountability from everyone to be like, I'm going to be on my game today, because nothing less than a schematically correct approach and execution in terms of when you do get the ball is going to be able to defeat City. So I just want to, point that clear. For as good as we were as a team, we still had a couple moments where you're kind of like, this is a bit shaky that we have to improve. So
yeah, particularly at the beginning of the second half, there was a lot of that. There was a little bit, but we managed to not completely collapse, and we managed to see the game out. So I will take a 3 points any day of the week. Big up Chalaboy Comics, appreciate you as always, long-time member of the channel. How many likes are we currently at? As you can see, the polls in the chat. Have you clicked the like button? Yes, or are you doing it right now? We've got close to 600 people watching already, close to 150 likes, which is fantastic. Where are we going to go to next? Let's go to Amanor. Amanor, you were at Old Trafford on Sunday, drenched. Not the case today, but a victory, 3 points nevertheless. How are you feeling?
Evening, Owen. I feel it's an enjoyable game to watch, actually, compared to Sunday. Sunday was like an end of season limp. That's the best word I could think. Limp performance, and I wasn't too hard on the players because some of those players that were playing were just, not standard that I expect for a Man United game. But today, the main thing I sort of noticed was the intensity in the game. All the players recognizing this is the last game. There was a bit of intensity, and I felt straight away there's compactness in the midfield. I don't know if that's something you observed, and we'll talk about the tactics and individual players, but did you notice that intensity and the compactness?
Well, it was a bit like, again, similar to Sunday, when you said it felt like we were still getting caught open quite a bit and the gaps were there, but there does feel like there has been somewhat of a shift by Ten Hag of sort of, let's not take as many risks. Let's not be as easy to turn over. Let's be able to be, like I said, a bit more compact at times. And also, it's just sometimes we're just taking a little bit longer passing it around at the back, just trying to hold on for the ball. Sometimes just take the sting out of the game a little bit, which I'd much rather do, because some of the games previously have been so erratic, and it's still 3-2 today. Like, it's still been end-to-end 5 goals in the game. But I have noticed that, certainly. And the intensity, I think a big part of that's people like Sofian Amrabat, people like AMAD, because they're trying to get a spot in the team because they haven't had it all season. Yeah,
and I want to talk about those players in a second, but one of the things I sort of noticed straight away was with McTominay playing as the 9 or the 10, the amount of service he got in the box because he was being in the right place. So it tells me that why are we not doing that for HOJLUND? Or do you think HOJLUND can learn how McTominay positions himself to be made available on that?
Well, when HOJLUND came on, straight away, got given the ball, scored a goal. So can't argue with that. With McTominay in the first half, it was interesting because he maybe made runs, particularly runs into the channel that HOJLUND doesn't always make, which I thought was quite interesting. But look, McTominay, I'm not a McTominay fan, but I'm not opposed to keeping him as a squad player because I do think he offers options. I thought he did okay today. But I am really glad for HOJLUND scoring the goal. I felt he really needed that, particularly with the articles and stuff written about him this week and some of the discourse surrounding him. And he does sort of show that he can get the ball into his feet. He still had a bit to do for that goal as well. It was hardly a tap-in, was it? It was edge of the box. Still had to get it out of his feet, shoot. So I'm really happy with him. And who else has it come from? Bruno Fernandes, because everything
Yes,
comes from Bruno Fernandes.
and this is the thing that for me, it was so pleasing to see Bruno playing like the star player that he is. You know, I've been critical of Bruno. You know, I've been critical of Bruno throughout the season. And I always said this in the past, Owen, that you want your senior players to rise and be counted. And Bruno Fernandes today was counted against a good Newcastle team. This is not a Newcastle team that's fighting relegation. This is a Newcastle team that, you know, we're going for the top four at one point, and they're still going to go for Europa League spots. So to be the best player, I think, on the pitch amongst the team of players of 22, Bruno Fernandes, you know, I take my hat off to him. So, you know, a lot of respect for Bruno for that game, as well as Amrabat. I thought Amrabat and Ahmad, both of them are. It just frustrates me a bit because I don't want to make it too negative, but you think Amrabat and Mainu playing at midfield they played 2 games now and it's worked really well. So then you think to yourself, why has Erik Ten Hag not done that more often? I don't know the answer to that question, Owen.
Yeah, and particularly, you know, I've noticed with Amrabat, one, his distribution of the ball was good, but actually the key thing for me is for a team like us that we suffer so much in transition when we give the ball away or teams are attacking us in transition. He's really good at winning the ball back in those situations. He either wins it up higher up the pitch or he sprints back, puts some tackles in, slide tackles, even a foul. I'm all for a tactical foul in the middle of the pitch just to break it up because you don't need to let him go for every single time. And that's what he does really well. And you're right, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? It makes you wonder. Not to say, Sofian Amrabat's the answer, but I mentioned this before the game. Do you think that's the stubbornness? We mentioned the tactics. We mentioned the player selection. Do you think it's that kind of stubbornness we go, you've made a bit of a mistake there, Eric?
Yeah, and he was forced to do that because of, I think he was forced to do that because he had to play Casemiro at centre-back. If Casemiro was available, he would have been playing Casemiro and Mainu in the mid of the pivot. But because his hand was forced and he played that, that's why he's had to do it. It wasn't. I was probably doing disservice to the manager, but I don't think it was a tactical revelation for him. I think it was the circumstances forced him to do that, and I think he may have stumbled across a formula that works. To, you know, like you said, transition football, win the ball back, etc. But just on my final comment, Owen, it does for the FA Cup final, even for the Brighton game. If I was Anthony and Rashford, I'd be worried. I'd be worried if I'm going to be playing in the FA Cup final now.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you should. I think that's, I mean, we spoke about Challerboy Comics earlier on. Like that's, Erik Ten Hag, I think, has got a dilemma now because he's got 2 choices. He can do what he has done previously, which is, well, I back Rashford. When he's fit, I play him. Or he does something that he hasn't really done. And he goes, actually, you know what? Doesn't matter what his name is. Doesn't matter how many games he's played. Ahmad's playing well. I'm going to go with Ahmad. Casemiro, Leach is back now, so Casemiro can get back him playing centre mid. But actually, when he's been in centre mid, he's not been doing great. Amrabat's doing well. I'm going to play Amrabat. But it's an FA Cup final, so does he take that gamble? I mean, what do you think he does?
I don't know. I mean, I think he has to decide. Ten Hag, does he value his job? I think he does. So I'm hoping he realizes that I've stumbled across a formula that works. I played it for 2 games against 2 decent teams. Arsenal 1-0. I know we lost 1-0, but bear in mind, we're loaded injuries, so actually it's not a bad performance. And we've beaten a top 6 or 7 team. If he's serious of having a chance of winning the FA Cup, and he did see that, I don't know if you saw that speech afterwards. Yeah. I'm hoping that the penny drops and he takes that brave decision. But I don't think he will. I don't know, and I don't know. I just don't trust him enough to make the right call at the FA Cup final win. Sounds like a cop-out answer, Owen, but that's my view on it.
No, it's true. I think maybe he might wait for one more game. Maybe he might look at that Brighton one and go, okay, if this goes, you know, if I play these guys again and they play well, that's it. Or maybe he does go over Rashford and says, right, what are you going to do? But I don't know. I think it's a really interesting one. I do. Big up, Amador. Appreciate you, as always, calling in. We've got over 600 people watching, close to 700, actually. Already over 200 likes, which is fantastic. See if we can keep that going. See what people are saying here in the chat at the moment. All Elite says Amrabat ahead of Cass in central defensive midfield right now. I mean, once again, isn't it? The dilemma is, does he go with tried and trusted and the sort of senior players? Not that Amrabat isn't a senior player because he's hardly young. Or does he go with the players that haven't had as much game time this season and are starting to do all right now. What does he do? And it's, I think, a very interesting dilemma. PJ says AMAD was man of the match, I thought. Red Baron says, I don't think no matter what team we put out, we can compete versus City, which, look, may very well be the case, but you also want to put out the best team, you know, you can to possibly try and win a game, or at the very least frustrate Man City. You know, that's also a part of it, isn't it? Just stay in the game as much as you can. So, yeah, that's interesting. I mean, look, is there a possibility that it's Rashford for Garnacho and AMAD on the right-hand side? That's possible. That's what interested me during the game, actually, because Rashford was warming up and it looked like he was going to come on. And KG said, he's going to come on for AMAD. And I was like, no, he should come on for Garnacho because Garnacho's tired. And then AMAD scored and then Rashford went back on the bench. And maybe that was going to happen. Maybe it was going to be Rashford for AMAD, which to me would have meant, again, Garnacho, I guess, goes out on the right. So Ten Hag can be stubborn. And it's going to be, does he stick with that stubbornness or does he go with what's working in a season where nothing's been working? So at the time that something is working a little bit, you would think logic would suggest possibly persist with it, maybe. And let's not say like, oh, Rashford. And the thing is with Rashford, just because he's been injured, he still hasn't been playing well. Like he still has not been playing well. That's another part of it. So dilemmas, certainly. Let's go to another call. Let's go to Sean. Sean, what did you make of what you saw this evening? And what do you make of this dilemma about who Ten Hag selects moving forward?
Yeah, Owen, before I answer your question, I just would like to bring up two things. Number one, the way Marcus Rashford was apparently treated by some Matchpoint fans when he was warming up before the game is an absolute disgrace. I understand that a lot of us haven't seen it. Yeah, it just wasn't good viewing, Owen. I'll be honest with you. And I understand a lot of us are very frustrated with him, but that's not the way. That's not the Manchester United way. Number one. And the second one is Samuel Luckhurst, as a wise man once said, hold that, you effing sausage. Okay. Now let's get back to it. So in terms of the dilemma, look, I still wouldn't start Marcus and the FA Cup final. There's no chance. The reason for that is if you're playing against Man City, right? I understand that we have to counterattack. We have to transition with bite. But at this given moment in time, given the fact that Marcus isn't fully fit, and the other thing is, I don't think we can go up against a team like Man City having a sort of defensive liability on the wings. What Alejandro does, and fair play to him, apart from his talent, a great thing that I like about him is his tenacity. He always tracks back. He always helps out with his fullback, and we will need all 11 players to do that against Man City. So for me, I would not start Marcus at all. I'll persist with Alejandro on the left, and hopefully AMAD on the right. And in terms of the performance, I thought it was a good performance, really, at the end of the day. We can't expect much given the situation we're at, but so given present context, I thought it was a pretty encouraging performance. I'll put encouraging because I think that's the correct word to use for this.
Yeah, I think encouraging is a fair word, particularly you have to remember the opposition too. I mean, Newcastle, they've been in good form recently. Looks like they're probably going to qualify for Europe, but we've taken it to the final day for that Europa Conference League spot. Nothing to shout about, obviously, but it's still something. And look, I think a bit like the Arsenal game, isn't it? People expected us to get battered again in the Arsenal game. Didn't happen. People thought we were going to lose today. I did. And we didn't. And I think that's a positive. Talk to me about Sofyan Amrabat. What do you make of his performance? And what do you think Ten Hag does with that as well when it comes to the final? Do you think he, with Martinez back, Casemiro goes back into midfield, or has Amrabat given himself a chance?
Obviously, I think he's given himself the chance. But, you know, I love the point that you were talking about, I think before with KG, where he was saying that it's very easy for this sort of sphere that we're all in, that whenever somebody has an opinion that somebody doesn't agree with, even for a second, it's just like, boom, it's always dismissed. Now, I think that it's important to have contexture over all of these things. Amrabat is what he is a Duracell bunny who's decent with his feet. At the end of the day, that's what he is, and that's what you need to bring the best out of somebody like Kobe. Because you see, when Casemiro is played, I don't know what's going on with him, but clearly he's become too rash. Obviously, his legs have gone, but his in-game decisions are scary. And if you have somebody like that lying deeper alongside Kobe, that's going to be a problem. So I really hope he does start Amrabat. And a similar player to Amrabat, who's done very well this season, and a player who I've had the privilege of working with closely, is Robert Andrich. who obviously a lot of people know from Bayer Leverkusen, but that's how Xabi Alonso utilizes him. You see, if you put him alongside someone who sort of travels a bit more, then you guarantee that nobody's going to run amok at the center of our midfield, which has been our growing problem all season. Not that Amrabat has covered himself in glory. I think he's had some dodgy performances, but do I think he will do that? I don't think so, but Aminom made a great point. If he thinks that he needs to win that game, there's no way he puts Casemiro there. I mean, on the other hand, obviously he doesn't change a winning team, so I can see Amrabat there. But having Amrabat there will really benefit us because one, he will make sure that the lanes are all closed for the likes of De Bruyne and Kovacic to make runs, and secondly, he allows Kobe to play further up front and sort of play in his more natural position. So if it were up to me, I'd start Amrabat. I think 60% he's probably gonna stick with Amrabat Mainoo because it's a pairing that's clearly had more control of the midfield. In an otherwise chaotic team, you need two calm players in the midfield, which is what it's doing.
Yeah, and also particularly against a team like City, if you've got the ball, you've got to try your very best to keep it. And even tonight, sometimes we could be very erratic with it, and we've been like that all season. And I think you're right with Amrabat. If he can calm things down, my key thing for him is, again, interceptions or winning the ball back. That's what we don't do, or tactical fouls. That's what we don't do, and he does that really well. So I think that's something that Ten Hag will consider. Rasmus Højlund came onto the pitch, scored a goal. As you say, Samuel Luckhurst writing nonsense about him and led to a lot of media talk about him. What did you make of his goal, and what do you think that can do for him for these last few games?
Huge. You see, this is what Rasmus brings to the team. That's the reason I've not understood the slander that he's getting. He's got, I think he's got like a 24-25% shot conversion ratio, which is way more than most other strikers. Obviously, Haaland has got something close to that, but that goes to show you that he doesn't really waste a lot of chances when he's given the opportunity. Now, I am of the opinion that clearly there was a meeting mid-season or early mid-season about this particular fact. Now, for it to come to fruition, clearly it's taken too long. If you remember the Rasmus goal against Sheffield, and then now Bruno providing him, there's clearly a communication from the team to be able to cross to him more. Even when he wasn't on the pitch, I remember Wan-Bissaka delivering a decent cross to McTominay. Now, you see, what Rasmus brings to the team is not just his older play. It's not just his finishing on both feet. What he brings is confidence, knowing that there is a centre forward. When you know that there is a centre forward who can actually get around, make himself a hassle, and score goals, the rest of the midfield gets reinvigorated. That results in better performances. Obviously, he's going to be a very good player for us in the long run. I'm so happy he got his goal. I hope he gets one against Brighton as well to set up for the final against City. And honestly, I think he can get a goal or two against City because, again, not just because of the high press, but I don't think City's fullbacks, they're decent physically and they're very good on the ball. But if you have someone constantly harassing them, sort of getting in between them, trying to make the runs, they can be got at. So very, very happy for Rasmus. Couldn't have picked a better person to score that goal. Obviously happy for AMAD and the lads as well. But it bodes well. And I think Rasmus is also a confidence player. And you would be if you're 21 years old, being the main striker at Man United. He desperately needs another player to sort of complement him. But it will do wonders for him, and I really do believe that there is a chance we'd get a goal from him in the next couple of games, 100%.
Certainly hope so. And obviously, the person who got the assist was Bruno Fernandes, got player of the match too. Is it a case with Bruno that, and maybe this is what it might be for the future? Obviously, there's been rumors about him leaving, then reports of a meeting to confirm that he's going to stay as long as ambitions are matched. Is it a case of him that we don't know what we've got until we don't have it anymore? Because when he's out the side, we don't create anything, and then he's back in and he's front and center creating all opportunities on the pitch.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing with Bruno. I think we've spoken about this before. I was telling you about the fact that he sort of became a more cultured midfielder last season. I thought he kind of regressed this season. But one thing you can never doubt from Bruno is his commitment. I mean, look at what he said post-game. He was just like, no, it's not just a captain's performance, it's a team performance. That's your captain. That's the sort of mentality you want from a captain. And I loved how Ian Wright has defended him. And you see like rival ex-players defending him because they see that beneath the quote-unquote moaning that he does is a professional, is an utter professional who wants to win. And I hope that he's around. Now, obviously, he's not the long-term solution, but he's not like 35 or anything. I feel he can still give us 2 or 3 decent years, if not more. Now, again, Bruno is the sort of player who gets better when the team around him is good. Obviously, he delivers in an otherwise chaotic team, but when the team around him comprises of calm individuals, that's when you see the best of Bruno. And think about it today, mate. He wasn't doing the Hollywood passes. The passes that he did do, I remember that beautiful ding to Garnacho. That was poetry. That was poetry. That's the sort of thing he gives. At the same time today, he was decent, very, very good with the ball, not just decent. He was linking up well with AMAD. That's what you get when you have ballers in the squad. And Bruno Fernandes is a baller. I don't think he's actually going, but he will be a very big part of next season. And with the new players coming in, you need somebody like Bruno there, who people know and admire as the captain, who will rally around. Not necessarily the sort of person will build the team around in the future, but someone who can rally around players right now, right then, and then sort of have better performances. So yeah, very happy that he's back. I saw that he's still playing with a bandaged hand, and even then he gave his 200% as he always does. Big up to him, big up to UV of course, and big up to Bruno, and big up to the lads today, and big up to Eric.
Yeah, absolutely. Big up, Sean. Appreciate you calling in as always. Members chat here. I'm Jalaboy Cont's been a member for 6 months, called into the show earlier on. Says, Rash starting versus City depends on how we want to deal with City. Who matches Walker? Speed threat versus defensive work will be the balance Erik ten Hag has to solve for. Look, he's certainly got dilemmas, I think, going into that City game, because to Chalaboy Comics' point there's going to be responsibilities, and because it's such a big match, you want to be like, oh, do you want to really put someone without experience in that? But at the same time, you want to go with what's working, and what's working at the moment isn't Rashford, it's AMAD. There's an argument to be said, is Garnacho working at the moment? He looks tired. I hope maybe at the weekend, maybe he does get a rest. Maybe you do start Rashford in that game just to rest Garnacho, because of what we did see as well. We saw the benefit of people that if they're just taken out the side or they're rested a little bit this evening. Bruno Fernandes, he probably could have played the last couple of games, but the right thing to do is he got a bit of a knock. We'll save you. A bit of a fresher Bruno. Look what he can deliver. Rasmus HOJLUND, let's manage his minutes this evening. Comes off the bench, scores a goal. Like, imagine we actually had a full squad of people we could bring in and rotate out. Like, that's a big difference too, isn't it? So that would have been really beneficial had that been the case. Avi's been a member for 9 months as well. Says Rashford shows up in big games and moments. We need moments against City. Well, he did score a fantastic goal, didn't he, against Manchester City at the Etihad earlier on this season. So I guess that's it's possible. So there you go, guys. That's the full-time view for you this evening. Bit of a shorter, abridged version. There should be fan views coming out very, very shortly, if they haven't already, from Flex and the guys outside Old Trafford. What's on tap for the remainder of the week? Tomorrow we'll be back once again, live morning view, Flex and myself. Probably a very tired Flex, actually. Those late nights and drives back are a killer. So yeah, we'll be back tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. We'll have What the Devil tomorrow coming out at 6 p.m. too. And then Friday, we'll have continued build up to the final game of the Premier League season for Manchester United. We'll have a morning show. We'll have press conference. I don't know if there's going to be there probably will be an actual press conference. Sometimes with these midweek games, they can do a thing where they film it after the game. But I think considering it's the last game of the season, they'll probably actually have a proper one. So I'll be doing that Friday. And then, of course, we'll have the Trinity. We'll have a match preview go out on Saturday. And then we'll have the match view. The final Premier League match day of the season. We'll have road trips, match views, and what have you. And then the week after, all of the build-up goes to the FA Cup final. All of the build-up. We'll have lots of fun stuff for that, including, of course, a match view on the FA Cup final day. If you enjoyed the KO match view experience, that will be the case for the FA Cup final. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm sure it's going to be totally rational. No problems at all. Lots of completely, very calm, no panicking and what have you. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So yes, fantastic stuff. Appreciate everyone that's tuned in so far. And we move on to the final Premier League game of the season. I'm out of it. Have a good Wednesday. And I'll see you again tomorrow morning. Peace.